based on a comparable,
amount of water.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could make a point, if you look on that chart again, remember I pointed out that $94,000 to you?
I'm sorry?
On the chart on page 2, there was the $94,000 bond cost for the water treatment plant. That isn't being paid entirely by water user fees. Okay, so be very, very careful when you're thinking about how you would charge the village. You know, we pointed out that $9,000 figure for just the power and the chemicals on the O&M cost. That did not include any portion of the $94,000 that you got to pay PFA every year for the bond on the water treatment plant. So if you sell them water, I think you'd want to think about collecting enough money to help pay their share of that bond too, because they are using a portion of that water treatment plant, which is why I did it the way I did it. You want to think about what your annual costs are all the way around.
So if, the point I was trying to get to there was, in my mind anyway, is that if you, it seems like the most economical way for the village would be to hook on that larger line and feed by all the water from the city. That way, you know, you're assured that you're getting the water quality that you need, right? You keep the tower in place.
We would use the tower as a reservoir, but we would,
As a reservoir for your fire
still pump
rating.
it to the tower. It would still go to the tower.
Yeah,
We wouldn't pump into it if we bought it all, but the tower would still be used.
right. That keeps your fire rating, right? That keeps your fire rating
But
low.
we don't need the volume of probably an 8-inch line if it can be satisfied with a 4 or a 6-inch line. And again, that's an engineering question, not mine.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
the
know.
point is, my point is anyway, that I just quickly did the calculations on the estimate of $41,000 a year. We've got 100 users. That's $410 a year, or $34 a month. And the city residents are paying $33.90.
We don't have any of our infrastructure costs in there.
Based
either.
on the same, well,
You got your infrastructure costs in yours, we don't yet.
that, and I think what he's saying is that if you're using our water, part of that infrastructure cost is yours too.
Well, I'm not debating that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that your rate is based on your entire system. If we were gonna have that same proportion, and we don't include our infrastructure costs yet, now our water rates are probably going to be $50, or I don't know. You know, that's an engineering question.
Exactly. And then, yeah, okay.
So, well, anyway, I think if indeed it is the consensus that the engineers can have permission to discuss, I mean, they will know in short order, I would suspect, without lengthy.
Ask them to get together soon.
Yeah, and,
Go ahead.
Mr.
please.
Mayor, I think what we really need to do here is, and it probably is a matter of 2 or 3 days with a conversation that we would have to validate these numbers. What the tough part is really the political part. The council and the city has to decide how they want to understand these numbers and how they want to apply them to an interconnect agreement. And maybe, if I might be so bold, what we need to do, Mr. Mayor, is sit down and have a work session where we talk about the numbers and how you feel about dealing with the village, given those numbers and what the impacts are on your water enterprise fund.
but I think if nothing else is a starting point, if what you presented tonight is the numbers, those are the numbers that Davie Engineering is going to use to give us a response.
Right.
It's going to be a positive or a negative. Now, if there's room to negotiate those numbers, that again is something that the city has to determine. And if indeed the city makes that determination, that information then still needs to go to Davie Engineering.
Sure.
And that will alter the end results for us.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, bottom line is cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with what the presentation tonight is, that's where we start.
Right.
And if it doesn't make any sense, we'll soon know.
Exactly.
And if it does, you know, then I guess at that point that then we move along.
Please.
Well, I gotta go back to page 1 then, because I see for a bulk water sale, buying 100% of the water, depends on how much you buy. It looks to me like these numbers calculate out at roughly $41,955, $95 a year. And the numbers that I'd given you originally, $41,071. So if you want the cheapest, go back to the other deal. If you don't, where do we go from here? Because those look very similar in terms of the size.
Well, and I think that was just the question initially was, is that with the calculations as explained tonight? Or, are we, do we have the ability to do, is it a win-win or is it not? And again, we're not asking the city to do anything to subsidize water. The reason that this came for discussion in the beginning was Paul Halverson and Jeff Dale. When we met with them in regards to our radium issue, they said, this is where we'd like you to start, because it should be good for everybody. That's where we went.
And I guess, Rudy, if you take, the 41,000 was based on the largest meter, right, the 8 inch, and I think, I hear you saying 4 to 6.
Well, I mean, I don't know,
But I
but
hear, Jim, you're saying 6 or 8. So we're not certain what size meter we're gonna have.
Yeah, I see what I thought.
Which makes it very difficult for the city to commit, I think, to even studying, because it costs us money to study.
well, and that's why we've asked, I mean, we need to know just enough of the basics to say something that the engineers can look at, and we can do things that are not going to involve spending a lot of money for yourselves or us. I mean, they can tell us if it's gonna be practical or not.
It just, said, for the volume of water we're talking about, depending on how quickly we use it, a 4-inch meter would probably suffice even with an 8-inch line. You have an 8-inch transmission line, but you got a 4-inch meter or a combination meter on it for low flow and high flow. But that's just a technical issue. But, the size of the meter, I think, is irrelevant. It's the volume of water you're trying to buy is the issue.
Well, we got 4 or 6, I mean,
Yeah.
it does matter.
Well, just the size, that system is based on the actual meter size for peak demand that you want to see in the system.
Just out of curiosity, what do you think, could I ask what you think would work? We're always saying 4 or 6, what do you think it should?
I think at least a 6,
Should go with a 6?
at least, yeah.
Okay, the 4 might work, but the 6 will work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say that the 8 will
Yeah,
work.
if
and
the 8 will work, but
Yeah. the 6.
well, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
John,
because you don't want to make mistakes like go the 4 might work.
Right,
You're better off going with what you know will work.
correct.
Thank you.
and John, if that's true, then the cost that you were quoting, instead of being 41 for the retail commercial, would have been 35,
Right.
based on them
Let me
buying
take
all
care.
of the water.
We're on page number 2, and we're in the second column from the right-hand side, and it's $35,000. That highlighted number in brown, second column from the right-hand side is a 6-inch meter and 2010 rates.